Hey everyone, there's a lot of stuff to go over when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows today. I also got some insider info from one of my buddies about where exactly that $20 million that Ubisoft has spent went into, and it's kind of wild. There's also more stuff to go over too. There's rumors that once Shadow comes out, Ubisoft is cleaning house big time. And historians have entered the fight, and they are not taking prisoners and much more. It's so bad, dude. Let's get into it. So like I said, I got some info, so my buddy Francesco Solbach, who works at that park place, should be releasing an article on this when this video is live. And he told me that one of his Ubisoft insiders has spoken to him, and yeah, they're not looking good, fellas. So in case you don't know, when Shadows got delayed, Ubisoft decided to spend an extra $20 million in development costs to fix the game after criticisms and concerns from the fan base as well as gaming news outlets. The big cost of this $20 million extra dev time, according to Francesco's Ubisoft contact, was that originally, Yasuke was meant to be the main character, so to speak, of Shadows. Yeah, Naoe is playable, but she was never, according to this source, supposed to be considered the main character of the two. The idea was that Yasuke was going to be the forerunner and was Ubisoft's way of using him as a convenient scapegoat to give players a fish out of water experience into Japan during the Sengoku period, which is when this game takes place. Naoe, of course, is from Japan, knows how to speak the language, and has lived with their customs, so Yasuke was always meant to be the main character, so to speak, of this entry. But, following the backlash from everyone pretty much, Ubisoft panicked internally. And they realized if they released the game in its current state for its original November 2024 release date, the game would be both unpolished, full of bugs, and heavily feature Yasuke as the hero of the game. Well, that's not the case anymore apparently, so according to this source, this $20 million was used to reverse a lot of Yasuke's involvement in the game, and we're talking big time. Yeah, he's still in the game. Yes, he is playable and he still has quests and whatnot, but Ubisoft has allegedly gutted large portions of his content specifically to not make him the main character anymore, so to speak. Apparently, many of the story beats and side quests that were tied specifically to Yasuke have been changed internally with this extra 5 or so months of dev time. This coincides with what I was told last year, that Ubisoft was already scaling Yasuke back due to the increased backlash online. For an example, an insider told me months ago that they would remove the hip-hop battle theme for Yasuke because that music existing for him in Sengoku period Japan, well, it's ridiculous, let's be real. Not to mention on the nose that a black guy needs hip-hop music battle themes, like wow Ubisoft, good on you there. But that's not all that this $20 million was spent on. It actually ended up doing the reverse of their original plan. So like I said, Naoe was not originally considered the main character of the game. However, according to this source, she is 100% going to be pushed forward more so as the main character over Yasuke now. As I reported in my previous video on Ubisoft erasing Yasuke, which yes they are by the way, as this video is now proving and will continue to do as well, Ubisoft is doing just that. They are literally terrified of the backlash and the lack of support and the pre-order numbers for Shadows due to Yasuke being there. Like I showed in my previous video, we can see here that Ubisoft has even updated their official website to literally erase Yasuke's presence when promoting the game with just Naoe instead. Which is just like what Francesco's source told him. They want players to believe that Naoe is actually the main character and was always supposed to be. But she wasn't. She was never supposed to be the main character. They also used this $20 million allegedly to enhance Naoe's parkour and abilities within the game as well, while not really enhancing what Yasuke can do at all. This was done, as Francesco's source told him, to change Shadows from a samurai-focused experience to a shinobi-focused experience instead, which is wild, man. They are genuinely terrified of people's reception to Yasuke within this game. As Francesco told me more, his source claimed the other big reason why Yasuke is being heavily altered or censored, I guess, in their marketing material and posters, is because Ubisoft wants to ensure they do not piss off Japanese people or historians who are actually well versed in the culture that this game tries to portray. They really are trying to backpedal a lot of this. Here's what Francesco had to say about it, and I quote, "These cuts are reportedly intended to avoid offending Japanese audiences and historians who have criticized the game's historical inaccuracy. A significant portion of the controversy ties back to Thomas Lockley, whose work Ubisoft allegedly used as the primary inspiration for Yasuke's character. Lockley, who co-authored African Samurai: The True Story of Yasuke, a legendary black warrior in feudal Japan, has been accused of grossly exaggerating and fabricating much of Yasuke's history. His portrayal has been widely debunked by historians who argue that Yasuke was likely a bodyguard and servant rather than a legendary samurai as Lockley claimed. Lockley's dismissal from discussions around the game has been subtle but noticeable. Ubisoft initially promoted him as a key source for the character but has since gone silent on his involvement. This silence coincides with a wave of backlash from scholars, particularly in Japan, who criticize Lockley's claims as speculative at best and outright false at worst. It is rumored that some of Yasuke's cut content in the game, including quests tied to his supposed rise as a samurai, were directly influenced by Lockley's work and later removed to avoid further controversy. Ubisoft's response to this backlash seems to include a shift in marketing focus, with greater emphasis on Naoei's parkour system and the game's shinobi elements. Trailers that initially highlighted Yasuke's samurai way during the game's announcement are now less centered on him, reflecting a clear pivot in how the game is being presented. Whether this last-minute reworking can salvage the project or not remains to be seen, but the changes seem like a desperate attempt to appease critics and salvage public perception. But it doesn't end there. Sources state that Ubisoft's change in approach has gone even further. The delay was used to refine Naoei's parkour system significantly and to heavily alter many dialogue interactions between Yasuke, Naoei, and the NPCs throughout the game. However, as our source mentioned, they could only do so much. Among these dialogue changes were discussions where Yasuke was previously presented as a samurai and celebrated for his renown amongst Japanese NPCs. Now it seems this has been altered to focus on the Creed, which will be built by both Naoei and Yasuke. Though, with Naoei taking center stage instead of Yasuke, Ubisoft has also reworked cutscenes where Yasuke was initially featured more prominently, with Naoei now portrayed as the driving force of the duo. From what we understand, it feels almost as though Naoei has taken the lead role, even though players will still have the option to switch between the two characters. Our source also stated that the delay was primarily aimed at re-evaluating Yasuke's role in the game to avoid further bad press from, quote, historical fanatics. Ubisoft reportedly sought to minimize criticism from Japanese historians by making the game more historically accurate where possible. So how much did Ubisoft really try to change? According to our source, the most egregious inaccuracies were related to Yasuke's portrayal, and efforts were made to mitigate these issues. However, they added that there are still individuals within Ubisoft who remain adamant that Yasuke's character will resonate with players and become a success, despite the backlash and mounting criticism, end quote. Thanks to Francesco Solback, who I have also streamed with by the way, for all of this. Again, if you want to follow the guy on Twitter, here's his handle. He's doing amazing work over at that park place. I have used Francesco's scoops aplenty already. The guy is very well connected in games and movies as well, as you can see. But what Francesco has told us here and in his write-up, which again should be live by the time my video is up, he's clearly being told that yes, Ubisoft is terrified of historians and pissing off the Japanese fans even further. But the fact that they wanted to make Yasuke the main hero, so to speak, that speaks volumes. Especially considering the fact that the guy, as we can see, does not play anything like an assassin in a game where players expect to, be able to do assassin stuff. It's such a bizarre series of mistakes on Ubisoft's part, but I'm not surprised. I mean, they were hellbent on adding DEI. And now they're releasing this game in a literal post-woke era. It's a mess, man, but do you think the mess stopped there? Hell nah, dude. We got lots of cringe left to sift through in this video. Next up, we gotta talk about this photo which sparked the dismay and hatred of 1,000 suns, and I'm not kidding. To you, it may just look like Yasuke walking through a Japanese market, but dude, as you'll come to see, this photo alone has unified Japan in its hatred of shadows. Let me explain. First, we have Dr. Alaric Naude, who is a professor and linguist, and his analytical eye has caused this photo to become so hated in record time. Here's what he said about it. Yasuke is shown wearing golden armor from the Kamakura period. Not only is the setting inappropriate, but it's also impossible for a foreigner fresh off the ship to be wearing armor worth an estate. Even a feudal lord couldn't afford it. And the talent for getting it all wrong is astounding, from the weapon piercing the helmet to the watermelon appearing amidst blooming cherry blossoms. Note, besides the fact that watermelons and cherry blossoms are never seen in the same seasons, watermelons were first introduced to Japan during the Edo period, 1603 to 1868. It is believed to have been brought there by Dutch traders or through China. Therefore, it is very wrong to say that watermelons appeared during the Sengoku period. By the way, the Sengoku period, which is when Shadows takes place, started in 1467. Shadows takes place in 1579. During the Azuchi Momoyama period of time, pretty much the game takes place during the finale of the Sengoku period amidst a massive civil war. So what Alaric is saying here is that Shadows not only has watermelons in Japan way before they were actually introduced into the country proper, but that they also have blooming cherry blossom trees while watermelons are in season, which is the opposite seasons, by the way. Apparently, cherry blossom trees, based on what I can find, bloom during the springtime in Japan, between late March and early April. However, in places like Hokkaido, they may even bloom in May. Watermelons, according to Google, have their season somewhere between May and September based on the climate. In Japan, watermelon season is from May to August, so technically Ubisoft could just say that this screenshot is from May in the game, I guess. However, again, despite that part of the year being the only time both the cherry blossom trees could maybe, I guess, bloom, plus there maybe being watermelons, unfortunately for Ubisoft, again, watermelons were not introduced until much later on when Shadows was technically happening as a game within the time period of Japan. So it's all still a mess and none of it makes any sense, but it's still funny to see. Another user would even start circling the comedy of errors in this goddamn picture, dude. One user would say stop nitpicking the graphics, and then, well, yeah, I mean, come on, man. The weapon is going through Yasuke's comically expensive suit of armor that he could never afford here too. By the way, a solid suit of golden armor would cost an insane amount of money back then. Nobody could afford that. Probably not even Nobunaga. So Yasuke just walking around in a gold suit of armor is literally insane. It would be like some celebrity right now that's just walking around with billions of dollars worth of jewelry on to flex. Like, that probably wouldn't happen. Then Kangmin Lee would enter the chat and ask, are they gonna add fried chicken in the DLC? To which a user would reply, perhaps Yasuke taught the Japanese how to fry chicken like in Korea. Also, I decided to look it up, and apparently the Portuguese were responsible for introducing the Japanese to fried chicken recipes. And I didn't know this, obviously, but apparently Japanese people celebrate Christmas by eating American-styled fried chicken. Is that real, or is Google trolling me? Let me know in the comments. Although it looks like Yasuke actually could have ate fried chicken, according to Google, in Japan during this period at least. Because according to Google, the Portuguese first came into contact with Japan in 1543, when their ships landed on the southern tip of Tanagashima Island. I probably said that wrong, but anyway. So there would be at least 2 decades worth of time before Yasuke, in this game, I guess, that he could probably have fried chicken. I can't believe that I'm sitting here researching this right now, but I think we're all learning something new today at least, so you're welcome, I guess. So if we see Yasuke eating fried chicken in Shadows, at least it would be canonically accurate. But I think having watermelon there on the side and him being a black guy, come on Ubisoft, we see what you're doing. Y'all are bending the space-time continuum to will watermelons and fried chicken in your Black Samurai game, and this whole situation is so stupid, but all I can really do is laugh at it due to how dumb it is. Another user would say, like, why specifically the cherry blossoms and also why the watermelons did you choose to nitpick? And then someone would then reply, because Ubisoft claims to make games with authentic settings, and as someone who lives in Japan, seeing watermelons and sakura side by side looks as authentic as a snowman on a beach. And hey, Who are we to claim that a Japanese native wouldn't know more about their culture than us, right? It is ridiculous, but man is it funny to see. Whole ass fake black samurai and you got watermelons in it. My god, Ubisoft. Incredible displays of stupidity here, amazing even. Then one user goes scorched earth by saying this. What do you mean watermelons didn't reach Japan until the Edo period long after the Sengoku era, or that they're typically harvested in the summer? How else am I supposed to know I'm playing as the forgotten black samurai without rap music and anachronic racial stereotyping? I mean, they're out of line, but they're right. Ubisoft doesn't realize just how poorly this all looks for them because, like always, woke people don't know that when it comes to racism, they are actually unironically the most racist of them all. For a group of people who claim that they don't see color, they do in fact only see color, race, gender compared to literally everyone else. It probably doesn't help as well that this new gameplay scissor reel came out and got a lot of people talking for all the wrong reasons. Sorry, but I have to black and white the entire thing because it's just full of blood and YouTube will censor it, but as you can see, Yasuke is shown to just be mercilessly killing dozens of Japanese people with no remorse. The whole thing just comes off as gross, but it is funny how these same journalist types will complain that Resident Evil 5 is racist because a white guy is shooting zombies in Africa. But they are all suspiciously quiet when Yasuke, their black samurai god, is just killing Japanese men in Japan without punity. And yeah, this is worse because these Japanese people are not infected, mindless zombies. They are human beings. Yet you'll never see the media claim it either way, but just watch. Whenever a Resident Evil 5 inevitably gets remade and announced, if they're still black zombies, the gaming media press is going to lose their collective minds. It's such a double standard, dude, but the entire Yasuke situation is ridiculous. Even IGN can't find the strength to defend them with their tweet that said, "Opinion, Assassin's Creed Shadows is not the Ninja Splinter Cell game I hoped for." This comes from their preview from one of their journos named Matt Perslow, who pretty much just states the game is not very good and misses the mark. Like, they aren't even hiding that the biggest downfall of this game will indeed be Yasuke. Listen to this and I quote, "Standing notably shorter than her heavily armored companion, Naoe is able to avoid enemy sightlines more easily. Her slender frame allows her to do things the bulkier Yasuke cannot, such as slip through narrow gaps and hide in boxes. While her grappling hook opens up access to rooftops and ledges that have no climbing handholds. Playing as Naoe opens up new routes and pathways through Shadow's world, or perhaps more accurately, playing as Yasuke closes the door on many established Assassin's Creed traditions. He's unable to perform any of the series' staple stealth actions aside from using his bow for silent, ranged attacks. Naoe does have a detailed skill tree, allowing you to build and hone her abilities beyond those standard tools. But all the exciting options are combat-focused, such as the elaborate 9-strike guard breaker or eviscerate with its kick-flip finisher. When it comes to stealth, the most exotic option I could find was the ability to slow down time for a few seconds. As far as this demo was willing to show me, there's nothing along the lines of traps, disguises, or more advanced stealth ideas. After 3 hours of play, I'm fairly confident in saying that Assassin's Creed Shadows will be the best stealth experience of the series' RPG era. Having a character and toolkit entirely dedicated to the approach signifies that Ubisoft is taking this fundamental part of the franchise seriously for what feels like the first time in many years. But as dedicated fans will know, stealth never actually went away, it was just eclipsed by the action. Shadows lets that stealth step back into the limelight, however, just because stealth now has prominence doesn't mean it's undergone any meaningful change. For all the studio's talk of Splinter Cell-like detection systems, Shadows feels like Assassin's Creed getting back to business as usual, rather than exploring a new, sneakier frontier. For many exhausted by the reign of Spartans and Vikings, that will likely be enough, but if what I've played is representative of Shadows as a whole, I think Ubisoft has missed a huge opportunity to capitalize on the advanced stealth potential of one of history's most recognizable clandestine assassin groups." End quote. So even IGN can't defend this thing really either. They confirmed that the game also has nothing interesting in terms of how you use your stealth. And the only new additions are pretty much being able to crawl through spaces, but it just slows gameplay down pretty much. Naoe has no cool unique stealth abilities, which seems stupid especially considering in Mirage, that Basim even had the unique ability at least to super assassinate people in quick succession. Why they wouldn't give Noway something similar to unlock is Ubisoft's decision, I guess. IGN also claimed that despite Shadows having a light and darkness system where you could use the darkness to cloud your movements, they found in actual practice that it didn't matter either way, and enemy sightlines were just as easy to avoid with or without light. Which probably whoever worked on those systems in the game read that and then wanted to throw themselves out a window. But there's more bad news from Fandom Pulse. Rumor Ubisoft to shut down Ubisoft Quebec after Assassin's Creed Shadows release. So this is a huge rumor, by the way, that is insane if it ends up being true. So Ubisoft Quebec made Shadows, and if Ubisoft closes them down, that's like, dude, that's a massive blow to Ubisoft and really the entire games industry that exists within Quebec, Canada. To put it into perspective for you, Ubisoft Quebec as a studio made games like the original Assassin's Creed, although granted many of the people who made that game have long left the company. They also made Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, again most people are gone now that made those two and it shows with Shadows. They also made stuff like Ghost Recon Breakpoint, For Honor, the original Splinter Cell, and Far Cry, although same thing, many left that made those too. Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the original Watch Dogs, Immortal Phoenix Rising, and more. So if this studio closes down, it's going to be chaos for Ubisoft. According to Fandom Pulse's insider, there is just absolute pandemonium at Ubisoft Quebec right now. Also, if anyone who's watching this works there, please reach out to me so I can get your side of the story without Ubisoft's corporate stuff in the way. If you want your voice heard, please email me or DM me on Twitter or something. I promise to keep your identity safe like I do everyone else's that contacts me, so please let me talk because this is knucking futs, dude. If you go look up their job applications, by the way, there's 0 new job positions that are pending, which is usually proof that your studio is going to probably die if no new blood is being added to it at all. Ubisoft has also closed studios in San Diego, California, as well as in Osaka, Japan. They also laid off people in Sydney, Australia recently too. Ubisoft also laid off the entire staff at Ubisoft Leamington, which is located in England. That's around 50 people that have been let go as well. Leamington worked on the god-awful Avatar Frontiers of Pandora and Watch Dogs Legion. They also helped work on Star Wars Outlaws 2. Pretty much Ubisoft is bleeding across the board, guys. They are losing employees in studios at an alarming rate. But it's simply because they're making things that nobody wants to buy because it's all slop. It's the same game over and over, and who are they kidding that people would still want to buy these things? Ubisoft also announced layoffs at Ubisoft Dusseldorf, Stockholm, and Reflections, combining the layoffs there plus Leamington. That puts the entire count at around 185 people laid off as far as we know. This is all the leadership's fault at the top of Ubisoft if you ask me. They're the ones that are greenlighting these projects. They positioned themselves to embrace DEI, and they were the ones who thought it was smart to implement Yasuke as their core hero into their next big Assassin's Creed game, which clearly is not working for them. Everything they've done is a masterclass in how to never do things if you want to make money or gain fans' goodwill. And the fact that they spent an extra $20 million to not add much features, but instead remove content featuring Yasuke specifically, yeah, this is bad, guys. This has all gone from worse to horrific in record time, but Ubisoft can really only blame themselves. But what do you think about all of this? Let me know as always. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to stay up to date on all the slop and take care of yourselves. They actually put watermelons in their Black Samurai game. I can't, Ubisoft, man, bro. These people have lost their composure. Okay, I'll see you guys soon.